Hi, this is Margaret Scott, the first female writer in Transformers comics, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1 Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenescope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
Oh, shut up, you mouth!
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 328. I am, of course, TFG1 Mike. Joining me once again is JT from Saskatoon. Hello, sir.
Good day, good day.
2 weeks in a row. Zenescope last week, Zenescope this week, Code Red last week. This week we've got Red Agent, which, basically it's Mission Impossible and James Bond meets the Grimm Fairy Tale universe, and it is awesome.
Yes, it is more coherent than the last books we discussed, because I wish I would have mentioned on that recording, it's just, I think my biggest problem overall, upon, hindsight and all that, is the artists changing just kind of skewed me, or skewed my love of the book. It's like reading a comic series drawn by Jim Lee and 4 issues in, they switch out for another artist whose style is like just way too different from Jim Lee's, and still finding like a lookalike or something. That's really what threw me off. But yeah, no, I enjoyed. Right now, I'll tell you, I enjoyed Red Agent a whole lot more because it just felt more coherent to me because it's the same artist across all 5 issues.
Yeah, that's we can't fault, the writing in Code Red. I absolutely love the writing because Pat Shand is amazing. It's funny that we're even bringing this up because Pat had actually tagged us on Facebook in a post about, he actually shared last week's episode kind of a thing, and I was like, oh, interesting. Alrighty then. So some interesting things about Code Red really quickly before we go too far into Red Agent, because Red Agent is a whole different team, writer, artist, all that stuff. It's all different from what Code Red was, and I'm trying to find this post, which means I'm probably going to have to edit myself. Alright, so Pat had shared the last episode. He says, "Here's a blast from the past for you. I was amused to hear the latest episode of the Pull Bag revisiting Code Red. Of all the series I wrote for Zenescope, this was always one that I didn't feel entirely connected to. I found the lead character, Brittany, as someone who was different under every writer, and I tried to embrace that. But the truth was that Zenescope wanted a superhero book at first. And then, when we were rolling on number 1, whoops, nope, they actually wanted a horror book. It definitely kept me on my toes, ha ha ha. I ended up deciding to just have fun with the story and let it be whatever it turned out to be. So it's pretty fun years later to hear it getting some love." Thank you so much to Pat. I've interviewed Pat Shand several times over the years. Really great guy, amazing writer. But Red Agent is a whole new team for the character. The Zenescope website basically says, "Mission Impossible meets Grimm Fairy Tales in this new, intense spy miniseries from Zenescope. Brittany Waters, a.k.a. Red Riding Hood, is recruited by a secret government agency to help take down a rogue organization that is determined to take out any and all highborn threats across the globe. Using the codename Red Agent, Brittany must infiltrate the mysterious organization and ultimately confront the seemingly unstoppable weapon called the Knight, a sadistic, laboratory-enhanced warrior whose side purpose is to seek and destroy."
Yeah, I'm calling him Jason. Because when I was reading this, folks, before you comment, sorry, when you look at the art, and I'm looking just in the first couple pages here, it's written by Lou Iovino.
Yep.
And two different artists, Diego Galindo and Vincenzo Acunzo. Now, I mean, it's cool that there's two different. That doesn't throw me off. I honestly didn't notice a whole lot of difference between their art, because Diego writes like the first three parts and Vincenzo writes the last two.
Right.
Like there's a lot of discrepancy there, but as we'll get into in the looking at the way the main villain Alpha is drawn, he looks like a reworked version of Uber Jason from Jason X. For those of you that haven't seen that movie, and I understand why some people just don't like Friday the 13th, Jason X, it's set 400 years in the future, and Jason gets turned into a cyborg. And he looks badass. And that's all I could think about while reading this comic.
Yep, absolutely.
But, I mean...
Yeah, so we got Lou on writing. We've got Joe Bruscia, Ralph Tedesco, and Lou for the story. Lou is on writing. Diego and Vincenzo on art. Now, this thing I'll say, and I agree with you on this, the art to me was sort of fluid. I didn't really, because obviously, like you said, one artist has 3 issues, the other one has the final 2. The thing with changing artists, and we talked about this last time with all the artists that were on Code Red. If you have someone doing what they're doing here, 1 through 3 and then 4 and 5, fine. But if you have one artist on one part of, like, issue 1, and not, like, you change artist each book, I absolutely do not like that, because it takes me... The whole point of the art is to not only, see the action that's going on that's being described in the word balloons and everything else, but is, it tells a story just like the writing does. And sometimes, if it's consistently changed, it jars you out of the story. But
and like I said, it's... Sorry, you go.
But it's one of those things where this felt so fluid, even though there is 2 artists on here.
Yeah, but I think the reason, again, it's just there's such a discrepancy is because there's a wide difference between all the artists. And some of them were very similar, some weren't, and really that's what, throws us all off like that. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, overall, I like this, and we'll get more into it as we go here.
Yeah. With issue 1...
I mean,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, with the... They call it, Mission Impossible meets, Grimm Fairy Tales, and that's very apropos, because the guy in the cover with the sunglasses, and he's a character named Ditto that we'll meet in the comic here, very Ethan Hunt looking sort of dude. You see an image of him and another on the interior cover. We don't see them look like that in the comic at all.
No.
You lied to me, Zenescope.
Ditto does have his glasses and all of that, and I mean, he doesn't exactly look like what the cover artist is doing. And I'm sure when we get to the end of this, because we're reading this in trade, folks, we're not reading this in single issue, but we're reading the trade paperback, and at the back of the trade paperback is the cover gallery. So we'll go through the covers at the end, kind of a thing, but... I think the thing with the covers is it's to obviously entice and get you into the book, and then you have look at the Boom Studios WWE series, the main WWE ongoing that they do. We've covered 2 of their trades so far. We covered the Seth Rollins trade and the Dean Ambrose trade. All of the covers, the main covers for those, are done by one artist, and then the interior artist is different. Kind of like sometimes when we would do Superior Spider-Man, and Delgado would have a cover, but it would be your boy there, Ramos on the interiors.
Humberto Ramos.
Yeah. So that's this kind of thing here. It's one cover artist, whomever that is, and we'll find that out at the end here. And then the interior artists. But I do love that cover. That cover is very, very cool. That front cover of the trade, because you're right, it is very, very mission-like. And I didn't even really think about Ditto as a Ethan Hunt type character, even though obviously on the cover he looks like that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so number 1, we have 5 total covers. We've got the main cover where it's Red versus Alpha. And then we have 4 other covers. We've got... no, actually, we have 3 other covers. I'm sorry. It's 4 covers total. Cover B is basically a Casino Royale kind of inspired thing. That's the first thing I thought of, with Red holding the gun there. I remember that with Daniel Craig. And, when Casino Royale came out X number of years ago. Cover C is, I assume, Avril. I don't think that's Red, because Red was never in black, so that's Avril with all her stuff. And then cover D is somebody holding a cell phone with Red on the picture, and it basically just says "Terminate." Which is your favorite, sir?
Well, I actually don't have any of those alternate covers with the trade I have, so.
Oh.
Like, yeah. I have like one trade. I'll defer to your judgment in this issue, sir. Since I can't say shit about it.
I like the phone cover, but my favorite, and actually I believe the cover art for the banner art for the podcast is going to be the Bond Casino Royale red cover, because that's just bad. That's more badass than Daniel Craig had any right to be when he was Bond, because I'm sorry, he's a piss poor Bond. Those movies sucked. Yeah, at least the first 2 did. Anyway, so we start off at some secret government facility in the Pacific Ocean.
Yes. And it looks suspiciously like a yacht.
Yeah. You ought to not be doing that, yacht. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, so we got Alpha swimming up all Scooby Gear looking like Torpedo from G.I. Joe. Secret Service agent not paying attention. He's taken out with a harpoon. And when you get that first full look of Alpha, like I said, looking at this, all I can think of is Uber Jason, just from the look of this. But he also kind of looks like he should have like this red snake symbol in his chest, and maybe speak with the voice of Starscream, because he kind of looks like a jacked up Cobra Commander.
Yeah, he does. To me, it looks like a cross. Like if his face was like tinted silver, it would be a cross between Cobra Commander and Destro. But yeah, you're right. That's exactly what it looks like.
But his eyes are glowing red, so he's evil. Mm-hmm. And he, again, I don't know if he killed everybody or just gassed them and knocked them out, but he kidnaps this little girl named Eve, just chucks her into essentially a body bag, hops overboard, and gets into like this little submersible sub. No, I mean, it looks a little more high tech, but it's essentially the one-person sub from Captain America: The First Avenger.
See, the crazy thing is, I want to make more G.I. Joe references, because this whole underwater battle reminds me of that first G.I. Joe movie where they hunted them underwater close to the end of the film.
Oh, yes. I have things I wish to say about that movie, but we're not talking about it today. So
yeah, no, that's for another time.
Bite my tongue. Must not rant. So Alpha, blows them to hell and gone with a torpedo, and we go to a very familiar government facility at Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's Brittany with this general. And she's like, "What is this place, General? You never saw that movie, huh?" I was like, "Who hasn't seen Stargate? Come on, people!"
I know. As soon as I saw the entrance, I'm like, "Hey,
Wait a second.
I'm like, wait a second. When the heck is RDA going to join us here? Because that's what I was waiting for.
So, yeah, come on, MacGyver that door open, buddy.
That's
and
right.
They roll up, and I mean, Brittany's all like, that's a big damn door, because you can see in her art in the face. They even got the whoop, whoop, whoop sound when that giant bomb door opens. I'm just like, oh my god, we're going to go in a galactic... No, it's just a regular old government facility, damn it.
So it's funny you say that that's a big damn door. Flynn lives, anybody?
God, I wish they would make a third movie already.
They won't, sadly.
Yeah, no.
Ascension was supposed to happen, but something, I don't know, Disney did something or whatever, I don't know.
Anyway, we're not talking about Disney. So we go in, and it looks like a pretty standard, government quarters. You got 3 giant screens, sundry other smaller screens, a whole bunch of lab techs running around at computer banks. Brittany is dressed in this rather sensible outfit for her, because let's face it, every other time we've talked about her, she's 3 feet of cloth away from being a stripper.
Yeah, she's the one panel where it's oh no, I've had my share of covert operations. That's basically a red business suit with a black turtleneck.
Exactly. I mean, without sounding like a complete misogynist or anything, I can take her seriously now, because whereas before I did take her seriously, it's just I'm a guy and I see an outfit like that and my mind isn't exactly staying on point.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Apparently, and how you say this is a different, like, it's obviously this, if we're use a Mission Impossible analogy, I was going to use a Friday the 13th, but this is the first series, or the first, like, last time we MI2, and this is like Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, this
stuff has happened in between, like, because you get that sense. I was like, well, I've had my share of covert operations, and the general's like, well, this is different than Hibocore, and I was like, what happened to Hibocore? I don't keep up on this series, folks. I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, because I'm specifically looking for character things. I'm not looking for the whole story. So, maybe there could have been some sort of note somewhere in here about, see... There's a note later that says, see this, or like when we get introduced to the other female character that's coming up, it'll say, oh, for her story, see Grimm Fairy Tales, Coven, or whatever it is. Like, I wish there was a note here saying, check this out to find out what happened. The only thing I can think of is that maybe they're talking about Code Red, but I don't know.
Yeah, like, clearly there's time in between, like, major stuff has happened. We'll have to do some more research for that. But we have, the general calls up this information on the New Crusaders, which I guess was like this, like, Frenzy Humanity from X-Men group that's hunting down Highborn. All of a sudden, Highborns have become Zenescope's version of mutants, and he shows them, like, these girls were 16 sisters. They're murdered in cold blood because of who they were. And, this is essentially like a more accepting version of Project Wide Awake, borrow something from classic X-Men comics, the government group that was like, is basically a mutant termination program.
Right.
It's been years since I read those comics. But, he's basically giving her the hard sell to get her on board to, like, kind of, not necessarily if he's the commander, she's like field commander. The general, who I don't think we've gotten a name for him yet, General Not Hawk is General Hawk, and Brittany would be like Duke.
Yeah, most definitely.
And she's talking about, why me can't exactly control the, I lose control in battle, and we see her where she was fighting the I can't remember what, we just talked about it last time, Jesus. The evil werewolf bitch from the last comic.
Oh, God. I'm blanking too.
That silver hair. We'll just call her silver hair.
There you go.
You know, she's fighting silver hair, and you know, it's time. Gives her like, come on, cowboy up, let's go. And then she's like, if I do this my way. It's like, understood. Let's do it. Let's roll. You know, where do we start? Well, we start with him. He's called Alpha. And I was like, no, he looks like Cobra Commander by way of Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about the art here is it's the art complements each other. You know, it's defined. And just that first headshot of Alpha was like, ooh, this dude's going to be bad news.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the new Crusaders are gone, and now there's the Circle. And I was like, well, that Tom Hanks movie kind of sucked, but the less said about conspiratorial Facebook, better. Just look it up, folks. You trust me. It's kind of weird. Anyway, the general hands her a folder, and we're introduced to who's the man in the chair.
Yep, man
He's
in
a
the
legend in
chair
the
is
hacker.
Ditto. That's right.
And I love this. The shot of Ditto, like feet up on a table in the back of a van, popping chips in his mouth, remind me of Hardison from the show Leverage.
Mm-hmm.
For those folks that have seen it, just like, you know, the snarky hacker who's, you know, he's basically hacked into security cameras in a casino. His at the table cheated poker, you know, so they're cashing out, and he's chased by security.
Yeah,
And they kind of almost get away.
kind of almost, but not really.
Yeah, because they get like his buddy's taken in by brain fart. His buddy's taken in by casino security, and they're like, "You're next," and they're pulling him out of the van after, you know, breaking through the window and all that. And then we go
To the
circles, yeah, and it becomes like a workplace comedy of sorts for like 2 seconds.
For half a second here, the two girls that are here with the ones in the scene, I'm like, oh my god, not that there's anything wrong with this, but oh my god, it's a fat April O'Neil and a skinny Irma. That's what I thought of these two women.
You
I'm
know
like,
what? I never even thought about that, and now that's all I can see.
I mean, more specifically about the black hair, the dark haired chick as Irma with the glasses and all that. But like, April's put on some pounds, man. She gotta stop eating that turtle soup.
Boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the Irma has seen this, you know, because they got their hooks into everything, and they see that, you know, Ditto's been, his signature's all over the net, and alarm was just triggered at this casino in Vegas, and she's like, April's gonna, like, you gonna call it in? Are you sure? Better be sure, because your life kind of depends on it.
Yep.
And she calls in, and then we go to, you know, Las Vegas jail with, or no, Mike and Ditto, and Alpha just blows the door in like the Man in Black from the end of Halloween Part 5. And I'm sorry, I've been watching a lot of those movies lately. It's the season. But he comes in, he straight up one-shot Mike's head off his shoulders. And just as he's hauling Ditto away, that's when Brittany rolls up and, am I clear to proceed? And apparently they had to, like, they couldn't just, like, hi, we're the federal government, we're taking this guy off your hands. No, they have to clear it with Las Vegas PD.
Yeah.
Oh, because apparently Grissom hadn't finished processing him yet or something. Yes, that's a CSI reference. I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Brittany comes in, and in a pretty badass scene, like, jumps off her bike and just flies through the air, sword drawn. And Alpha's like, ooh, she got skills.
Yeah. Not
And
really.
then he plants her into the cement.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, game respects game. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, he plants her very soundly into the cement. And this first issue, like, again, I'm in the trade. First issue ends with him bearing over, looking less like Destro and more like Storm Shadow now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be done with her in a second, and we'll be on our way.
Yep. I love this first issue. I love how fast-paced it is, because it took me no time to read this. Like, it took me more time to read the 5th issue of the trade than it did the first 4.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love this. I think it's super great. I think the story is interesting. The art is very cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. And again, just solid work all around.
Mm-hmm.
No complaints. We get into the second chapter. Now, in the trade here, we get one of the covers, which is Alpha holding in this, like, I guess it's a fantasy variant cover, because it's not the Alpha suit. He's got like this big horn skull belt buckle and like a necklace of fingers, which kind of screams Dolph Lundgren from Universal Soldier to me. He's holding a severed wolf's head and just kind of looking like a badass.
Yep. This is also the issue where the main trade cover comes in, which is very cool. So that's the main cover for this issue. We also have one where it's Red's, it's kind of like Alpha's in the foreground and you can see Red through his legs kind of thing. And then there's one where, because I believe this is the issue that Avril gets introduced, so she's kind of like on the floor upside down in a cover. So yeah, very, very cool. So Avril shows up, and this is the point where it says, editor's note, see Grimm Fairy Tales Coven for Avril's story. So very cool. So that way, okay, sure, this witch shows up to help Red or to help Ditto or whatever, and she's more focused on getting revenge for her coven being murdered by this guy, but she eventually gets convinced by Red to help. Not before she actually rips the guy's arm off, or before Red actually rips the guy's arm off. Wow.
Oh, yeah. No, she tore that out by the roots.
Yeah.
By the roots, folks. And then he pimps out in a not at all copyright infringing Cobra.
Yeah, see, I thought...
literally a flying car comes in. I'm just saying that looks like something out of G.I. Joe.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not saying you're not right. When I first saw it, the first panel where he says, but not to you, and we see the flying hovercraft helicarrier, I'm like, oh, hey, look, Marvel's here. I thought it was S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like, wow, that's kind of a jacked up version of Lola. Who knew Agent Phil Coulson switched sides? But, and honestly, one of my favorite things about this sequence is Alpha having what usually would be a hero's quit line in a movie or comic like this, where he's like, probably not to you and not today. Yoink, and away.
Yep.
And then, yeah.
So then we get a couple of panels.
I was just saying, then, we get into this Avril, who, like you said, that blurb, there was a miniseries previous to this that introduced character. But what I like in the space of like 3 pages, we get introduced to her, we know Alpha killed her coven and she's out for revenge. Okay, go.
Yep. And then after Avril and Red kind of get on the same page, we go back to the circle, and Eve tries to escape by, kicking everybody in the head.
Well, she became like young Natasha Romanoff for a second. I mean, she jumps up on this guy and like some MMA style, like arm hold, feet in her head, just snaps the guy's arm. She's straight up like chiropractics another guy to death, and she's finally taken down by, well, a taser.
Yeah.
And we get this guy, that's enough, Eve. You're putting me behind schedule. And I was like, bald, suit, schedule. You're a government official betraying the U.S. government, aren't you? I've read enough comics and seen enough movies to spot this shit on sight.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then we get Chen's noodles, and Ditto's going to his, I guess,
Bunker.
one of bunker of some sort. I'm assuming, like, being a comic book, he's probably got a couple of these like gopher holes set up all over the place. But yeah, he goes in. He's got the requisite cot, different PCs in there, cables all over the place. And then we see what you kind of didn't mention this in the first issue when we see Ditto got USB ports, built into the side of his head.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're firewire. I don't know. Looking on the net for the symbol he saw in Alpha's chest, and we go back to the Circle stronghold, and Alpha's in a Bacta tank. Something, it's here. Get in this goo; it'll heal you up good. Mm-hmm. And I like how he converses with the baldy suit guy,
the senator,
while in there, the senator, and they don't give like any sort of like little like marks on his speech bubble to say he's speaking through a speaker. It's like he's in this tube, he's covered in goo, and you can still hear him like normally. Like, that's some high tech goo right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they mention like referencing she's connected to the Realm Knights and to the Earth's Guardian Celamathers. And then we get one of this entire miniseries where he says, "She got lucky. I'll be ready next time." Yeah, not so much. I just love that. Oh yeah, and he grew his arm back, because I know people are wondering, did he grow his arm back? Mm-hmm. And they mentioned they got a mole in DC, and she's, Brittany's connected to this new highborn military initiative. And they start talking about Eve and talking about her programming is sophisticated, and they got her strapped up in like this crusade, the requisite, because if these guys weren't evil enough, and they've got her, this young little girl, strapped up in this crucifixion-like experimental table up, and they've got tubes and wires and gigas, oh my, stuck into her. And apparently she's a robot or something. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's ever explicitly said. We certainly don't see sparking wires coming out of her, although in the next page she mentions, my root systems are well protected.
Yeah, she's
she's an android.
Yeah, some sort of something.
A cyber being of some sort.
There you go.
And then we get this one guy who basically looks like Dr. Mindbender on a good day with, again, male pattern baldness, goatee, evil goggles. He's in a lab, so of course he's wearing a shirt and tie, because that's how science do. And they basically set up, which sounds like a pretty ingenious get. Whatever tech they've gotten or information they've gotten from Eve has allowed them to. So if Ditto hacks into their system, they're going to flood his, trace it back to him, and then flood his system with some. It'll incapacitate him and just knock him out, and then they can come and grab him at his leisure.
And that's what happens.
Although I do like the look of when we get back to Ditto, he really doesn't have any use for a keyboard and a mouse, because you can see him surfing the Matrix.
Yep, very much so.
And then he plugs in another cable to a different port in the side of his head, and he gets in, and yeah, they, fry his cortex. I've seen so many sci-fi movies with this sort of thing, like something out of, I don't know, like Johnny Mnemonic or something, where he gets zapped and he passes out on the floor, and then Avril and Brittany break into the police impound
and steal a hot car.
Yeah, but I love this. Brittany has basically got this smartwatch that she puts a little doohickey on the
She
van,
scans. She scans his van. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like like the scanning from like Transformers when they map a vehicle. This somehow deduces, well, it scans the van and then it hacks into traffic cameras, and it's kind of Fast and Furious 7, and her smartwatch tells her, where he is, or like where Chen's Noodles is, and they're like, we just need to borrow a ride. Tough choice. It's like, yeah, like you're not going to steal the hot rod. Mm-hmm. And Avril mind wabbies the guy at the gate, and off we go. Yep. And then they get Avril and Brittany. They try getting into Ditto's bunker, and they see on the screen like he's passed out on the floor, and they're like, dude, don't go, like we can help you. And then you see slag protocol active, 29 seconds to meltdown on his monitors, and I was like, well, that doesn't sound good.
Where are the rest of the Dinobots when you really need them?
But they can't use that word anymore because it's a derogatory term about women in UK. I know. I'm just saying.
That's the original name. That's what it is. Issue 2, very fun, very interesting. Keeps you on your toes.
Oh, yeah. And it keeps it like the plot's just going. I mean, again, to go back to last week, the other thing that really bothered me, besides the wildly fluctuating art, is the plot seemed to meander a little too much. Like, we're cutting over here, and then we're cutting over here, and then there's this guy over here eating a sandwich, and this lady's petting her dog. Like, it wasn't coherent. Like, like I said about the art, coherent was not a word I would use to describe that story.
Yeah. Yeah, so issue 2, absolutely dig it. I think it's super great. With issue 3, we have 4 covers again. The main cover is Eve basically digitally attacking Ditto. The cover B is basically Red in this amazing split type of pose. It's just her with her guns, almost in the full split position. And then there's Red and Avril on both other covers doing stuff. Again, folks, we'll talk about the cover gallery at the end, because I will be able to show JT the cover gallery at the end kind of thing. So,
the chapter 3 cover I got, it's basically a very standard action cover. We'll get to it at the end, like you said. But yeah, we get back to the action, and Avril, she's like, I'm on it, stand back, and she turns the door into glass, which, that's actually pretty clever.
Yes.
I mean, just in action with them like pulling out like the explosive silly putty or some sort of cutting laser, or like a pressure acid stream to like cut through the hinges. It's just, never considered how magic might be used in a action movie context.
And now you know.
G.I. Joe.
Yes. So they do rescue Ditto. They get out of Chen's Noodles, and sadly, I think the place blows up, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. A little bit, maybe. I don't know. So the Alpha dude shows up in a G.I. Joe vehicle, and they're like, we gotta get out of here. And basically, there's a chase.
Yeah. There is a chase, and yeah, we get the not at all ripped off from Marvel's Shield hover car chasing, standard issue action movie hot sports car. And they get to what looks like the same warehouse with like the dozen or so loading bay doors that you see in every other episode of Arrow. Mm-hmm. Which doubles for at least 5 different places, if I remember correctly, in that show. And they get inside, and they basically stand. Avril looks like she's about to like sacrifice herself, but what she does is I guess it's some sort of water processing plant or something. She hits this tube, and basically there's a peristaltic chain reaction to quote Wayne's World, and all these pipes start blowing up, and Alpha is subsumed by all this tidal wave, and they escape into the sewers and get back, to Shan Mountain, because we get the requisite few days later.
Mm-hmm.
And they get into this room with the general, and he's like, so can we get anything from the scene? And it was like, no, the whole place went up like a candle. We found like an escape tunnel. And then we see that, Ditto is basically, he's in a coma. The data surge that the Circle fed to him has put his mind in what they call a feedback loop. So he's basically trapped in his own mind.
Yeah.
And
they take us inside of his mind, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. And I do like that the general spells it out that his, highborn abilities is basically he's super smart, and he's good with computation and math, and mentions he has access to human mind we haven't even mapped yet, which is along the lines of one of my favorite tired cliches in comics, where that's to the other 90% of his brain. Mm-hmm. Which isn't, we actually have access to a lot of our brain capacity. It's a whole. Yeah, when we see that shot of his brain, it looks like an X-ray with got the USB ports on the side, and you hear this ditto, 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 all over the place. And they're talking over him, and they mentioned that how did he get this ports? It's like, well, he's experimented on, and people are experimenting on highborns. This is one of the main reasons we started this thing. It's barbaric.
Yeah.
And we see in Ditto's mind that he's talking to Eve somehow. And apparently his abilities, he wakes up, "Who are you?" And he's telling I was talking to Eve. And I love Brittany's reaction. Does she... But Eve, the general, sure as hell did, because he's got this oh my god, how does he know about her look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, she spoke to me just now. He's like, that's impossible. There's no outside access. She's like me. We can do this.
Yeah, she makes her own access. So they basically go on a thing of we have to help her, we have to find her, and then we cut back to the Circle
not
compound.
Dr. Mindbender.
Yeah, not Dr. Mindbender. Basically telling Eve that, hey, you need to figure it out. You need to do this. You need to do that. Let me in. Give me access. And then he realizes, oh, we can get access through her eyes. Could it really be this simple?
Yeah, and they
yep.
A VR Oculus helmet to her.
Mm-hmm. And
then he runs. He's like, we have access.
Yep. And that's how the third issue ends, with her saying, hurry, Ditto, hurry.
He just runs away. Guys, we've hacked into Pornhub. Let's do this. That. He doesn't look like he's, one struck a blow against the good guys. He's literally looks like a nerd running away. It's like, dude, we got unlimited access to porn. Let's,
mm-hmm.
That's all I got from this. You are not threatening in the least, sir.
Yeah, no.
Alpha's a badass.
You, not so much.
Yeah. Just one calorie, not enough.
Yeah, exactly. Issue 3, again, I love this whole story. I had originally read this singly back when it came out, and this came out a few years ago, I believe, at least 2 or 3 years ago. Because I remember I was going to do it back then, and I just never got around to doing it for the podcast. And reading it again, this is one of the best read stories that I've read at this point.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. I know at the end of this, I keep saying this at the end of the podcast, we're going to be doing 2 different things. We're going to be going through the cover gallery, and then, which I haven't even read it, but there's a preview in here for Red Agent Highborn Order, or the next series that Lou is writing that's currently going on right now. So, we'll kind of go through that. But issue 4, Main cover is Alpha standing, looking at all his other brothers, kind of thing. There are other covers, which we will talk about later. We open up with Brittany and the General and Ditto basically saying, can you show us where they're keeping Eve and all of that. And they go and look for that power line should be cold, kind of thing. So they have this whole tracker thing of where they're going to find her, and all that. So I love the scene as we're going through this. I love that, Ditto basically says, I want to stop these bastards and save Eve too, but I'm no secret agent. I'm just a hacker. There's more to you than you know, says Avril, and Eve spoke to you. We need your help, Ditto. Plus, if you don't come, you won't get to play with any of our toys. And it's this open room of all this armament and battle suits and all this
Kevlar
tech stuff. Yep.
I mean, this is a wet dream for any Call of Duty fan. The first time I read this, I heard that line from Batman. They get those wonderful toys. You see, especially right in the foreground, the bottom of the page, there's a mini chain gun, like a minigun, and the battle rifle from Halo. And I'm just like, okay, I'm in. Oh, look, they got jetpack. And I just looking at the Rocketeer's jetpack on one of the tables there.
Yep.
That is the goddamn Rocketeer's part of this. Okay, I'm on board even more now.
Absolutely.
And we circle back to the Circle's headquarters. Haha, puns. And you see some of the new alphas. Yes, that's what I'm calling them. The clones are choking in their goo tanks, and apparently Eve has, Dr. Mindbender decided, hey, maybe it's not such a good idea we put the Oculus Rift on her, because she's hacked into the server and is basically killing a bunch of them because she's trying to stop this army from being born. He's like, I'm reestablishing the firewall. I've regained control. And 5 seconds later, he gets a machete through the chest because you screwed up and you don't get to play anymore. And then, of course, asshole senator, it's like, he was a fine scientist. And I can't remember the guy's name, but if the voice I hear when I read the senator's dialogue, it's the guy that played the warden in Shawshank Redemption. And he was like
Norton was the character name, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember the actor's name. Like he's usually the type that played like the Weasley little, scumsuckers like that. He was the Leland Owlsley in the first season of Daredevil. He's one of those guys. You know his face, you might not know his name. But yeah, not Dr. Mindbender is dead, and Alpha, basically. He's like, the senator is like, he was a fine scientist in Alpha. He was a failure and he cost me soldiers. They're just meat and circuitry. I cannot fabricate scientists. And then Alpha, does that classic, grabs the tie and pulls him in. You forget, they are of me, Senator. And I cartoon in the 80s voice Destro, which is the best Destro.
Yeah.
Movie Destro.
Yeah. We then go to the Oregon coast at 2 a.m. because that's when they're going to be doing this fly-in mission over the coast into the forest kind of thing. So we have that whole scene where they're, flying into the jungle, a forest kind of thing in the northwestern United States. They have to figure out how
goes for a classic hang glider backpack. I like that.
Yep. They have to figure out how to get over the barrier or get through the barrier. Well, the only way over is up.
Yeah, because the Avril and Ditto come in like the classic flying squirrel suits, and he detects there's an invisible wall. Basically, it's not like a force field. It's just you violate the perimeter, they're gonna know you're there.
Yeah.
And he's got like this thing that looks almost like a PKE meter that he detects it, and he just mentions that, you know, I have this thing juiced to the to hell, and I still barely caught it. So yeah, and then this one failed. We go to the back into the headquarters, and this one failed blue-skinned clone is flushed, and then he wakes up, and he runs into our intrepid. Well, he escapes. He runs into our intrepid heroes.
Yeah, so we see him, you know, I have to save her, I have to save Mother. We get back to Ditto, Red, and Avril, where they're, you know, doing their whole grappling hook thing and whatever else. And
they get caught by a couple of goons.
Yeah, that doesn't really work, sadly. So they get caught by a couple of goons, a battle ensues, and, you know, Red kind of, not all the way, I don't think she all the way wolfs out at all in this series, but she, you know, has her claws climbing up the tree kind of thing, whatever. We get back to the circle, and, you know, I want no further delays, nothing can stop the army, and Eve's like, I'll never stop fighting you, kind of thing. And then we get to the point where the rogue clone escapes and dresses up in a Breaking Bad suit. That's all I can think of with the...
let's call him Walter.
Yeah, let's call him Walt. He's white. He's not blue. He's white.
Yes, so Walter runs into the crew after they've taken out the goons, and he's like, no, I'm a friend. Eve said Ditto is here, and he can help us. And he's like, oh, who's your mother? And he's like, Eve. Eve is my mother. And if we don't save her before my brothers wake up, all will be lost. And then we get in, and the senator is like talking to this, you know, Weasley little Jesse. Let's call him. I mean, if we got a Walter, we also have a Jesse.
Yeah, really.
And the senator's talking to this Jesse, and Jesse's like, you know, basically they've duplicated her code, and, you know, our hardware can run it just fine. He's like, so run the Awakening program. What are you going to do with her? Wipe her clean, of course. The evil laugh is implied, obviously. And, you know, to be concluded.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Once again, I'll say this now. The difference between the artists is very fluid. It does not take me out of the story at all. It actually brings me more into it, because even though they're not the same art, it kind of sticks to the same kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, even though they both have two different styles, but Akunzo's art is, I absolutely enjoy it. I thought it was super, super interesting, super fun. Lou's writing is great. Just love reading his writing. So
yeah, no, I can't disagree. Like, I think this is the first comment we've done in a long while, when you and I have been on the show, that we've both like, yeah, no, exactly, word up.
Yep.
We got nothing. So yeah, we get into chapter 5, and they're still kind of grilling Walter, and he's like, what do you mean Eve is your mother? She gave me life. Like, duh.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you have this. I don't know what's on it, but so throughout all the covers that we've talked about, all the covers we will talk about at the end of this, each main cover on the ones that are in the trade on Comixology, I've thought of like the main overall trade cover with Avril Red and Ditto was the Mission Impossible cover. There's the Casino Royale cover for issue number 1 kind of thing. Number 5's cover, it's just a smoking gun on a red book. And I'm thinking, oh, when's Agent 47 going to show up? Because I'm like, that's such a Hitman cover right there.
Yeah, no, and that's what I got for like the chapter 5 thing, is that very, very Hitman, you know, James Bondian sort of cover, you know, confidential on the folder, smoking gun. It's just, that's class.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we get back to Walter, and he's like, the others will be like him, but not me. She made me different. And then, like, what do you mean others? The other replicants. And they're like, oh my, me.
That's what the army is.
Which you really would have thought that they would have figured that out by now. Like, they knew there was an army that's going to wake up, so why are they so surprised that it's an army of replicants? Okay. That makes it worse somehow. But Avril's just got this intense hate on because, you know, he's a clone of Alpha, and Alpha killed my friends, and, you know, she basically Hadokens him when he tries to run, go like, I have to save her, and she's like, no. And she straight up Hadokens him, and he's like, please. And he makes with the sad puppy dog clone eyes, and they're like, okay, we'll help you save her. And he's like, I do like the one line between him and Avril. Avril's like, how do you know all this? Weren't you just born? Mother made sure I knew lots of things, but you're right. Today is my birthday.
So not only is he a Walter White, he's a Frosty the Snowman.
No, I was thinking more Vision in Age of Ultron. He's like, you're unbearably naive. Well, I was born yesterday.
Yeah, there is that.
So, you know, the awakening is complete.
Yes.
That just makes it sound like more horror movie, you know, apocalyptic sort of language than, you know, we've got a bunch of jacked up super clones that are all up and around now.
Okay, so another thing, not necessarily with Alpha himself, but with all the clones that we see here, I'm like, ooh, it's going to be nothing but Bane voices, because they all look like Bane.
Oh, you have my permission to bitch and complain.
Yeah,
I mean, the mask that Alpha's wearing and they're all wake up wearing, which makes me wonder, is that genetically growing onto their face, or they just all put respirators on these cadavers once they go into the goo? I don't know. But yeah, so we got a whole bunch of, you know, Alpha clones running around, a whole lot of betas. And they're basically, everyone's wondering, like, we get back to the group and they're all following Walter, and he's looking for something. They're like, isn't the bunker the other way? And he takes them to, like, this back entrance.
Yeah, because he wants to save Eve. And for everyone that's following along, the actual name of the character is Ryder. That's what his mother named him. But just because he's wearing the giant yellow suit, we're calling him Walter.
Yeah. We could have also called him Marty, because, I mean, could have gone that way.
Yeah, that's true. Back to the Future.
Walter's more appropriate, I find. But yeah, they go through this, like, escape hatch and climb down to looks like an ICBM missile, and they go into this room. They pull a tarp off, and Ditto's like, bingo, and they've got this is a, like, you know, this is a Linux system. I know this moment where there's this ancient computer, and you know it's ancient because you can see the dot matrix printer and the 2-foot by 2-foot TV monitor that all computers used to have. And he's like, he hacks in and basically says, like, the army's up and about, and he finds a service tunnel that goes right behind the lab where where Eve's being kept. And then just before they go off, this is the strange thing, like, maybe 5 minutes ago, Avril was ready to straight up kill Walter. And then you see this really tender moment where she just kind of does that loving hand on his cheek. Oh, wait, sorry, I misread. That's Ditto. I thought she had her hand on...
no, that's
Walter's
Ditto.
cheek. I just noticed that now after reading this twice. Jesus. And at what point did Avril... Like, I get it's the standard action spy movie kind of thing where the guy's going to maybe heroically sacrifice himself, and the one female who's been like a complete bitch to him the entire time, I was like, oh my god, I love you. If nothing else to say about this comic, I love the cliches used in the plot.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Brittany is like, what's going on, Britt? It's like, I know how we're going to end this once and for all. And they bamboozle their way into the clone storage tank room and blow it the hell up.
Yep.
You know, put a little C4 down. A beta comes in, which is what I'm calling the clones. Brittany whips out the requisite Batman-style smoke pellets.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't really smoke pellets so much as they are hologram projectors, and now it's betas versus holograms.
Yep.
Gem and the holograms.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not knocking it. I love that comic.
Uh-huh. Exactly. So then they eventually get to escape. They still have to fight
Walter
off. Go ahead.
Well, before they escape, Walter and Ditto, bust through the wall and rescue Eve, and just at the last second, like, you don't see it come in. Alpha, was it Alpha or was... No, yeah, it was Alpha. He slices Ditto in the neck. Doesn't one-shot him, but, he takes him down, and just before he kind of passes out or dies, because we're not entirely clear here, he passes off a flash drive to Eve and Walter, and then we get to the end of the battle where Brittany drops what looks like another hologram projector. No, it's a straight-up bomb.
Yep.
And then
Everything
they go to
goes
escape.
completely.
Yeah. Well, I like that Walter is carrying Ditto's body, and then I love it. Alpha comes in again. I love the cliched action movie dialogue in this comic. He's like, "Sorry to interrupt, but we're not through yet." And Brittany is like, "Oh, you asshole."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they kill him in a rather anticlimactic sort of way.
Yeah.
I feel, for as badass as this guy has been shown, blowing through walls and one-shotting dudes with his machete sword knife thing, which I never mentioned that, folks. He's got this sword. It looks like a giant combat knife sword. It's basically that blade that Billy in Predator had. He doesn't bring it out until he takes off his vest and stands on that log bridge like, "Oh yeah, I'm bad enough to take this thing out." No, you're not. I'm sorry, you're not a sexual tyrannosaurus like Jesse the Body Ventura, dude. But yeah, Brittany one-shots with an assist from Avril. She one-shots Alpha by snapping his neck. They get in a chopper, and the whole place blows up.
Yep.
And they're like, "Somebody get me a laptop." And you're like, "What is this?" "I'm not sure. The drive just took over." Some sort of message? Maybe more. His ability was vast. Transference is a possibility. And I don't even need to read the preview. I didn't need to read the preview that's at the end of this trade. It's like he copied his mind onto a flash drive because that's how technology works.
Right. And so we have what I love here about two parts of the art. Right before we get to the point of the flash drive, when they're escaping, with the helicopter and the Khartoum, I'm like, hey, it's like right out of like Modern Warfare or Call of Duty, or insert whatever video game you want to insert here. And then later, after that scene, they have the flying off into the sunset thing, and I'm like, hey, that's another video game looking thing. In the epilogue, they find Alpha, and it just says the end. Like, they go, the cranium and portions of the torso are intact. Holy shit. We need an amino bag over here. Because he doesn't look good. He looks like about as good as Cobra Commander did in that G.I. Joe movie that no one wants to talk about.
Yes.
All right.
He looked a little Freddy Krueger there. So. Yeah.
So, Red Agent, overall, I love this. I think this is super awesome. I'm loving that they're going to have, that they currently have a continuing series with this. This is a story every so often I can go back to and read. This isn't something I'm just going to one and done at some point if I want to go back and read a nice action mystical tale. This would definitely be one of them, like what we've already talked about previously. How are you feeling after reading this?
I love it. I have absolutely no complaints other than that is a very anticlimactic way for the main villain to go out. I mean, they jacked this guy up to, like I said, he looks like a jacked up Cobra Commander by way of Jason. And if you've ever seen a Friday the 13th movie, folks, you know Jason usually takes, like, a massive amount of punishment. I mean, look what happened with him in, like, was it issue 2? Like, Brittany ripped his arm off, and he was ready to go by the next issue.
Yep.
Like, that, it just seemed like such, like, why would you do it like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's really my only complaint.
Yeah. All right, so 0 to 5 on the GCRN rating scale. I gotta give this whole trade a 5. There wasn't anything in here that made me want to rate it anything lower than a 5.
No, I agree with you. It's a straight up 5. Art and everything, like, it all came together. It's not that the story last time was bad. It's just the plot in the individual comics and the fluid artwork amongst all the artists. It just kind of derailed my train of thought.
Yeah.
So
and I want to say, because of that behind the scenes thing that I read earlier in this episode that Pat Shand had said, it wasn't because of the people working on the book that I think that happened. It was because of, the powers that be at Zenescope trying to figure out what kind of story they wanted, kind of a thing. So, there's nobody on the creative team that you can really blame, kind of a thing. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the cover art and the preview for the next ongoing series for Red and her people. So we'll be back after this.
Hello, geeks and geekettes! Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks, every Friday on the Geekcast Radio Network.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download this show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
We are back, folks, and as I said throughout the show, we're going to go through the cover gallery and talk about each of the covers. Red Agent number 1, cover A. Artwork is done by Mike Lilly. Colors by Ivan Nunez. It's the one where Red is facing off against Alpha. I dig this. I think it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, in the art, in the comic, Alpha is a dude, and, he's, say, soldier strength sort of thing. Like, he's a bit bigger than Brittany, and so on equal ground. But with this cover, this is a straight up, she is fighting Jason.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Red Agent cover B for issue number 1, done by Cio
Shao Cacao.
Oh, there you go. I knew I was going to butcher that, but basically,
I'm probably butchering it myself.
Probably. Sorry. We love the cover, but this is the Casino Royale James Bond Red Agent kind of cover with her standing on a rocky ground with the giant gun. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, it's good. I enjoy that. I'm going to say for completely aesthetic reasons, I like cover C.
Yeah. It's very interesting, to say the least. And I don't think that's Red. I think that's Avril, but it might be Red. I'm trying to see.
She's got swords. I'm pretty sure that's Red.
Yeah, that could be. But Red also uses guns, too. So, I don't know. Yeah, she does kind of have guns in her hands, I guess, or bombs. No, okay. I'm not used to seeing Red
I'm sorry,
Riding
she's
Hood in
holding
black.
guns?
in her hands.
I didn't notice.
Behind her back, right here. Right under her butt.
I'm being facetious, Mike. I know exactly where she's holding her guns. They're right next to her buns.
Yeah. Then there's the Terminate cell phone cover. Love that one.
And
Mission Impossible.
Yeah, the classic stripper costume with Brittany there.
Yep.
Then we get the cover. This is what I have on the trade with the not Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, good old ditto. And then we've got the one I mentioned earlier. This is from issue 2, which it's done by the same artist that did the Casino Royale cover. See, that's what's throwing me off about these covers. I'm not used to seeing Brittany in black. I'm used to seeing her in red because she's Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, so. And the one where she's standing and like pointing a gun at Alpha, where she shouts through the leg. I just had to look it up here. That's homage to For Your Eyes Only, one of the Roger Moore 007 films.
Yep, very cool.
And then pretty sure the one where she. Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the one where she's in black. Well, if the Mission Impossible illusions were, because I mean that. Never mind that she's in the suit and she's coming down from the ceiling. Like I just recognize those walls.
Yep, I just did that myself. I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. Okay. And then we've got Alpha with the wolf's head. I actually love that cover. That cover is super cool.
Yeah. I know that's one of my favorite covers.
Yep. Eve destroying Ditto digitally. That's interesting. This I actually have a full version of, so it's bigger than what it is right here. It'll probably be in the post. It's number 3, cover B, done by the same artist that did the Casino Royale cover. It's basically Red, kind of doing the splits, holding her guns. Love that. And then Avril in red on number 3, cover C, done by Talent Caldwell. The team of Red, Avril, and Ditto on number 3, cover D, done by Diego Galindo. Yeah, there's the Bond Girl one. I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That you can
just don't tell people you like the James Bond movies, because then you got the whole, well, you're just a misogynist now.
Oh, stop.
No,
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about these people that say that.
Yeah.
God.
And then what's the next cover?
Next cover would be from number 4, cover C, done by Sabine Rich, which is Red with her sword and her gun on her knees.
I like this one. I couldn't tell you why. I like this one.
I'm sure there are 2 reasons why you like that one.
2 big... Okay, moving on.
Moving on. The next 2 in the cover gallery are the main covers for issues 4 and 5. So, very cool for that. Yeah, so we've got others in here. I just love that they do this. I think it's super cool. And then we get into the Red Agent, the Human Order preview. Now, we have not read this, but apparently Red's in Vancouver with some Tron bikes. Not really Tron bikes, but you get the point.
Yeah, no, and she's got riding a crotch ride.
Yep, pretty much. So Red Agent, absolutely love it. We will definitely be continuing on with the Human Order series as well. I'm pretty sure that series is currently ongoing. I don't know if it's going to be like a 5-issue series like Red Agent was, or if it's going to be a main ongoing kind of thing. I'm actually trying to find that out right now. So after the few Zenescope titles that we've done, what are you liking so far from being introduced to this company's content?
Honestly, this is probably the one I've loved the most. Like the anniversary issues, like there was some good stuff there that definitely intrigued me onto the concept in this universe. Because like I've said before, I've never really taken a good long look at this universe and this series. Like I said, the last time we talked about this, I'm not a fan of that. Like the character of Brittany, I'm just like, come on. A werewolf secret agent badass. What's not to love? But yeah, this series is my favorite, especially the James Bond covers, because I was just looking up online here one of the covers I found on was it the Comic Vine website.
Mm-hmm.
Cover B, I think, yeah, Cover B by Chow Cacao, and I apologize if we're butchering your name because I have no idea how to say that. That cover is an homage to one of my favorite Roger Moore Bond films, The Man with the Golden Gun. Christopher Lee as Scaramanga.
Absolutely.
And that's honestly what I think the biggest thing or one of the things I love the most in this series is the obvious, like the writer, Lou, it's just this love letter of sorts to spy movies, particularly James Bond, certainly with the artists, with all the cover, parodies and all that. And
absolutely,
definitely. In the future, I'm going to give a chance to look at this some more of these series a little more.
Oh yeah, I've got plenty of plans in the future. Probably most likely next year. We can continue on with Red Agent: The Human Order, which is I assume it's an ongoing, because right now it's got up to 9 issues. Unless they're going to do a 10 or a 12 issue miniseries, it's looks like it's an ongoing. Basically, Red Agent: The Human Order. The world has become a dangerous place. Highborns and monsters from the realms of power hide in plain sight. Now the world's leaders are looking to exploit their powers for their own gain, using them as spies and assassins for covert missions. But the Highborn Initiative is there to balance the scales with their own group of superpowered spies. Led by Brittany Waters, better known now as the Red Agent, her team travels the world battling the forces of evil that lurks in the shadowy world of espionage and secret intelligence. So that's going to be very cool. Coming up on the pull bag, I don't know just yet. I had plans, but those might be up in air. So we're either going to get the KFC comics from DC Comics with Spade of the Bolt Matrix, potentially, hopefully. If not, I'll have to find another host for that. Or we're going to finally, after years and years and years, JT and I at some point are going to be finishing up the Superior Spider-Man, the Goblin War of Nations. So the final arc in the original Superior Spider-Man story from Dan Slott. It'll either be that episode or the KFC episode, or it might be WWE Volume 3, Roman Empire. I don't know yet. It depends on if I can get Spade's attention to cover the Kentucky Fried Chicken superhero comics from DC. What these are, folks, is it's 3 comics basically putting DC superheroes with the Colonel Sanders. And the only reason why I want Spade of the Vault Matrix to do it is because years and years ago, when they came out with that chicken patty bun there was no bun. The Double Down. When they came out with the Double Down, Spada did a video trying the Double Down. And the video ends with him basically falling over past. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see. Not really, but it's one of those. It was really one of those funny moments because Spada has done comics with us before. He did the Spider-Man 700 with me. I think that was before the pull bag actually started. It was on Geekcast Radio that we did that when Spider-Man hit the 700th issue, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm not sure. So you've got 3 different options for what's coming up for the pull bag. What have you got going on, sir?
Like I said before, periodically recording an episode of the Comic Connoisseurs with Ben, the host, and Red Ink. we talk about comics, comic movies, comic-related stuff, whatever we damn well want. You can find me on that. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, at JT from Saskatoon.
Absolutely. I am at TFG and Mike on Twitter. You can follow at Geekcast Radio for all the other network updates. Follow the Pullbag on Twitter. It's at the Pullbag and also on Facebook as well. As always, go to the website, geekcastradio.com. A new website design and whole new layout and everything else is coming soon. We are currently in the midst of our wrestling tag team tournament wars thing on Geekcast Radio, so we're doing that. As well, a bunch of other stuff. So make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time.
And so we come to the end of another fun-filled episode.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.